At 8 months pregnant, I handed my husband, Julian, a divorce agreement. He sighed helplessly. "What are you up to now?" I pushed my phone in front of him. On the screen was a video I had taken at my checkup that day. He, who was supposed to be on a business trip abroad, was kneeling down and massaging his childhood sweetheart, Amelia's ankle. He was usually a man of few words with me, but he was patientlying her, responding to her every little tantrum, not letting her words fall on deaf ears. He even used sweet nothings I had never heard before, making her giggle. Julian's movements paused, and his face showed his usual helplessness. "I just see her as a sister." With that, he waited for me to break down and vent as I always did. My 8-month belly was unusually heavy. I supported myself on my swollen legs, sat up straight, and handed him the signed agreement again. He hadn't expected me to be so calm. He pinched the bridge of his nose and compromised. "Who taught you this? To play such a big game? Aren't you afraid I'll really leave you?" "Fine, I'll sign." "Well, go to sleep after I sign. Don't tire the baby." He was sure that at 8 months pregnant, I had no way out. This was just an escalated tantrum, so he signed it carelessly, as if it were an unimportant document. After signing, he saw that I was having trouble getting up and even habitually came over to massage my cramping leg and soothe the baby's movements. But this time, I was serious. Everyone said I had married a good husband, mature, stable, and able to tolerate all my little tantrums. And at such a young age, he had become a rising star in the business world, with a bright future ahead of him. He was the perfect match for a pampered young lady like me, and he had lived up to it. When we first got married, to be a good wife, I, who had never cooked before, tried to cook for him, but ended up blowing up the kitchen. When I was crying in fear, he came back. He didn't say anything, just quietly cleaned up the kitchen. "We have a maid, just tell her what you want to eat." The dish I had painstakingly cooked was thrown in the trash like a pile of garbage. When I clumsily messed things up, when I was sad and emotionally broken, there was no comfort, not even an acknowledgement of my feelings. He would just take care of things and then say, "There's no need to cry over such a small thing." I thought that was normal, that I was just too clumsy. During my pregnancy, I couldn't eat. I was nauseous and would throw up at the sight of anything. My stomach was in knots, and my belly was uncomfortable. Under this double torment, my temper became more and more unstable. I would often break down over a small thing, or cry when I smelled a strange perfume on him. He would just watch, or lock me in the room and let me scream and shout, neither hiding nor explaining. Pregnant women are sensitive. "You're overthinking it." But he was also very good to me. At 4 in the morning, if I wanted a certain kind of bowsy, he would drive for 4 hours to get it for me. He would wait in line for 5 hours just to buy my favorite cake. He would remember my menstrual cycle and would promptly bring me a cup of brown sugar water and a heating pad. All these things added up. The problems seemed to be solved, but the unresolved emotions were like nails in a tree, and every touch was painful, leaving a trail of scars. Looking back at our 3 years of marriage, I seemed to be a shrew. The first time I found out he was cheating was in our 2nd year of marriage, at a company dinner. It was pouring rain that night. I had to go and pay my respects to my mother, so I was half an hour late. He was a very orderly person. He wouldn't allow himself to be late, so he had left me and gone ahead. The cemetery was in the suburbs. I was soaked for half an hour before I could get a cab. By the time I arrived, the dinner had already been going for half an hour. I looked for him everywhere but couldn't find him. I called his assistant, but her voice was hesitant. "Mr. Vance ran into Amelia on the way. She wanted to drink milk tea. He'll probably be there in half an hour." I waited for a long time before I saw the late arriving him and her, arm in arm, walk into the hall. In a fit of rage, I rushed up, pulled her away, and looked at him with red eyes, grabbing his collar and questioning him in front of everyone. "So you left me to pick her up, Julian? I am your wife," the onlookers whispered. At that time, the accusations were all directed at him. He had been publicly humiliated by me, but his expression didn't even change. When I had finished venting, he finally spoke, his voice calm. "Isabella, she is my sister. We grew up together." He reached for my hand to comfort me, but I slapped it away and he helplessly pulled me into his arms. "My dear, you always misunderstand me. Is my love for you not enough? What more do you want from me? Do you want me to cut out my heart and show it to you?" He looked at the guests with an expression of doting on me and an apology for my little tantrum. The onlookers immediately broke into knowing laughter. They assumed I was a pampered young lady, and that he was a doting husband, a perfect man. Beside them, she also spoke up to explain. "Sister-in-law, please don't misunderstand. There is nothing between me and my brother. If we were to be together, We would have been together long ago. I was half convinced, but I calmed down under his comfort. But the exception he made for her left my heart unsettled for a long time. This was the first time I had seen him break his own rules for someone. Later, I found out I was pregnant. His attitude toward me didn't change. On the contrary, he became even better to me. I had just put the matter to rest when life gave me another blow. I accidentally saw his and her chat history on the computer. Their chat history was a back and forth. From a small dog on the street to how they wanted to celebrate their birthdays in a few days. Their chat was full. I collapsed in the chair and opened my and his chat. For a month, it was all my ramblings. And his replies were just short. Yes. Okay. I know. I had always thought he was just a man of few words. Only now did I realize that he just didn't want to share with me. That he didn't want to coax me. When I went to his company to bring him lunch, I found that she had become his personal secretary. When he came out to see me, he was in a bit of a hurry. As he bent down, I saw a lipstick stain on his collar. I don't remember how I got out of there. I only remember the overturned lunchbox and her crying in his arms. It was the first time I had ever seen him coax someone. So gentle, so patient, but I was already pregnant. I didn't want my child to not have a complete family. I didn't want my child to not have a father. In the countless nights I couldn't sleep from the pain, my tears would soak my pillow. My heart was completely broken. I wondered what the point of marriage was. Was this the love I wanted? But for the sake of my child, I could only swallow this bitter fruit. After packing my bags, I went to my best friend's house. She was shocked to see me, pregnant and with a suitcase. Did you have a fight with him? That's impossible. With his personality, he can't even get a word out when you hit him. How could you two fight? I don't believe it. Before I could speak, a sweet, soft little ball of fluff rushed over, smiling sweetly, and looked up at me. Godmother, I missed you so much. It was her 4-year-old daughter. I smiled and stroked her head. Godmother is here to see you now. She pulled her daughter back and said with a laugh, you little monkey, Godmother has a baby in her belly. Go and get her a glass of water. Looking at her lively daughter, I instinctively touched my belly. In response, a slight movement came from under my palm. I sat down, took a breath, and got straight to the point. I'm divorced. She almost spat out her water. Divorced? You? I don't believe it. He is so good to you. He remembers everything about you. He would cross provinces to buy what you want to eat. He lets you get away with anything at the company. If you two can get a divorce, then I don't believe in love anymore. I gave a tired smile. But that's not what I want. He can handle things, but he can't handle my emotions. It's not love. It's responsibility. She was speechless, just looked at me with a worried expression. What about the child? Do you want the child to be born without a father? I bit my lip, at a loss, my hand instinctively on my belly. Seeing me like this, she was a little helpless. Forget it. You should rest first. As I was drifting in and out of sleep, I heard a knock on the door. I instinctively looked at the time. It was 3 a.m. I opened the door and found him there. He was holding a few things. You came to a friend's house without saying anything. You didn't even bring your usual things. I was afraid you wouldn't be used to it, so I brought them over. I'll come and get you in a few days. He turned to my best friend, who had appeared behind me, and said apologetically, pregnant women are like this. You have to be patient with them. I'll have to trouble you to take care of her for now. I looked at him. He was so thoughtful. He had even brought her a gift. But he hadn't once asked me why I was here. All he had said was, she's pregnant, she's just being hormonal. As he drove away, the passenger window suddenly rolled down. In the night, I saw her profile. 3 a.m, a man and a woman alone. I sneered, my heart surprisingly calm. So this is what a dead heart feels like. If my unresolved emotions were the fuse, then his cheating was the last straw that broke me, and made me determined to get a divorce. I and she lay in bed, tossing and turning, unable to sleep. In the quiet air, her cautious voice came. Are you sure? I hummed in agreement. Then what about the future? It's very hard to raise a child alone. I turned to face her and winked playfully. Have you forgotten? My mother left me an inheritance when she died. I haven't even touched it yet, and am a moderately famous comic artist. Although I've taken a break, I should be able to get back into it without any problem. So, I can more than support myself and a baby. And I can hire a nanny, a maid. I will give my child enough love. Seeing that my expression was not unhappy, she let out a long sigh and gently hit my arm. You had me so worried. I laughed without a word. The baby in my belly seemed to feel something and gave a light kick. After marrying him, my life revolved around him. I tried to be a good wife, but I forgot how to be myself. I think I have never lacked the courage to start over. the child will not be a burden. He is a flower on my path. Refusing her company, I went to the hospital for a checkup alone. As I was waiting in line, I sat on a cold chair. The air was filled with the cheerful chatter of couples, all excited about their unborn children. At 8 months pregnant, he had not once come with me. My phone chimed. It was a social media update. She had posted a picture, 2 overlapping hands on a small belly. The larger hand was wearing a familiar ring, and the smaller hand had a hospital bracelet on its wrist. Our mutual friends were all sending their blessings. Oh, it's so good to have someone to take care of you when you're sick. So sweet, so happy. I moved my finger and blocked both her and him. Lying on the bed during the checkup, the cold instrument moved over my belly. The baby is very healthy. At 8 months, the baby was already formed, a tiny little thing. I looked at the ultrasound, my face a mixture of love and complexity. I walked slowly down the stairs, holding my belly, and found myself at the door of a hospital room. Just a wall away were him and her. The door was not closed tightly. Like a dark voyeur, I peeked through the crack and saw their happiness. She was not feeling well and didn't want to eat. She pushed away the spoon of porridge he was feeding her and said sweetly, "I don't want to eat. It has no taste." He looked at her with doting eyes, reached into his pocket, and took out an expensive necklace. "Be a good girl and eat. This is for you to play with." She took the necklace in surprise. "You actually bought it for me." He smiled and nodded, then spoon-fed her again. So, when a person doesn't want to eat, they can be coaxed. It's not just a cold. "You said you wanted this. I've already bought it. Or what else do you want? I'll go and buy it." It was only then that I realized that what I wanted was love, was a sincere heart. Seeing them like this, I was even more determined to get a divorce, because I want my baby to be born into a loving family. No matter how hard the road ahead, I will raise my child alone. Unexpectedly, he pushed the door open. He was shocked to see me, then his brow furrowed. "What are you doing here?" I took a step back and showed him my checkup report. "How is the baby?" "Everything is normal." We were silent. Then he seemed to remember something. "My parents are expecting us for dinner tonight. I'll pick you up later." I leaned against the wall and laughed, reminding him, "We're already divorced. The cooling-off period ends in a week." It was the first time I had ever seen his expression crack, though it was only for a moment. "Are you serious? The baby is 8 months old." "Isabella, there's a limit to how much you can fool around." He always thought I was fooling around. He never cared about my feelings, my thoughts. I turned to leave, but he grabbed my hand. "I'll take you." She got out of bed and stood beside him, looking innocent and frail. "Sister-in-law, are you getting a divorce? Is it because of me?" She bit her lip, looking so pitiful. "There's nothing between me and my brother. Please don't misunderstand. He just sees me as a sister." "Sister-in-law, please don't overthink it." She casually showed the necklace around her neck, a silent boast. He, on the side, was a little impatient. "I told you, there's nothing between us. What do you want?" "Isabella." I looked at him, and he suddenly seemed so strange. He and her were so close, yet he used sister as a shield, never able to face his own heart. So hypocritical, so cowardly. "Julian, not everyone is a fool." I sneered and turned to leave. In the end, I still went to his parents' house. It was his mother who had personally called. "Look at him. He doesn't even know to bring you home. This child is so unreliable." "Isabella, you're pregnant. It must be so hard. I've made some soup. You must come and try it." They had always been very good to me. After much consideration, I still went. His mother helped me to the sofa and brought me a bowl of nutritious pigeon soup from the kitchen. "Here, have a bowl of soup before dinner to warm you up. Look at you, you've gotten so thin. You two are still too young. You don't know how to take care of yourselves." She looked at me with a pained expression. It seemed he hadn't told them about our divorce yet. After dinner, she wanted me to stay for a few days. "You don't have anyone to take care of you, and you're about to give birth. If you stay here, we can take care of you. You poor child. You lost your parents at such a young age." I smiled and refused, saying lightly, "No need, we're already divorced." "Divorced?" She couldn't control her voice. It was a little agitated. The teacup in her hand fell to the floor. His father also looked over. I nodded calmly. She, forgetting the mess on the floor, turned to find him to confirm. "Divorced? Why would you get a divorce for no reason?" He lit a cigarette, his profile barely visible in the smoke. I didn't know she was serious. She panicked and turned back to take my hand. "You child, what is there that you can't talk about? Why do you have to get a divorce? The baby is 8 months old. It's about to be born. It's very hard to raise a child alone." She stood up and slapped him on the back. "What happened? You two should explain it properly." How can you get a divorce at a time like this? What about the child? I smiled. Aunt, we're not a good match. I'm serious about the divorce. To my surprise, her eyes suddenly filled with tears. Isabella, I'm begging you, please think about it again. I'll have him apologize to you. There's really no need for a divorce. It's very hard to raise a child alone, and a child needs a good family environment. Right. We had been married for 3 years, and she had been very good to me. I had lost my mother at 10, and her presence had filled that void. Looking at her, my heart softened, and I didn't know how to react. If my mother were here, what would she say? Seeing my expression soften, she felt a glimmer of hope. Isabella, don't worry, I will have a good talk with him. You're about to give birth. This is when you need someone the most. You two can't just be so willful. But she didn't know that my softening and my heartache were for the baby. I had no regrets about the divorce, refusing her and his father's attempts to get me to stay. I went home alone. On the way, the summer evening breeze was gentle. I felt a long-forgotten sense of ease. I rented an apartment near the hospital, decorated it to my liking, bought some new art supplies, and locked myself in my room to work on a new project. I called it Rebirth. It was my new beginning. After uploading it to social media, I was a little nervous. I hadn't drawn seriously in 3 years. Although I had been sketching, I had only kept up my basic skills. Tomorrow, the cooling-off period would be over. He and I hadn't been in contact for a long time. I still sent him a text. See you at the Civil Affairs Bureau tomorrow. The next day, I waited at the entrance of the Civil Affairs Bureau for a long time before he finally arrived. Without me to dress him every day, he was a little disheveled. He had gotten used to my care, and it was clear he was not adjusting well. He had dark circles under his eyes, and his stubble was not clean-shaven. He looked like he hadn't slept well in days. He looked at me with a complex expression, his tone hesitant. Do we really have to get a divorce? Why? I suddenly felt like laughing. That why had come so late that I had no desire to even explain. I nodded. After entering the Civil Affairs Bureau and going through the process, the last step was to sign. After signing decisively, I looked at him beside me. His hand was trembling slightly, and he hesitated for a long time before he signed. I suddenly wondered if there had ever been a moment when he had loved me, but then I thought, what a boring thought. Even a dog, after 3 years, would have some affection. When we parted ways at the entrance, he brought up the child. The child. What are you going to do? I will raise him well. You just have to pay child support on time. Isabella, if I keep my distance from her, can we get back together? I suddenly felt like laughing at his naivety. Julian, you have never known what I want. I want love. I want someone who can comfort me in the first instance. Who can tell me, don't be afraid, I'm with you. Julian, do you know what emotional Cold War is? With that, I turned and got into a taxi without a backward glance. On the way back, I couldn't help but open my social media. My new work had gone viral. I never thought that in less than 3 days, the views would exceed 100 million, and the likes would skyrocket. My work was widely acclaimed. I gradually got over my past. My future was bright. As my due date approached, to avoid any accidents, I went to the hospital. The maid I had hired had to go back home for an emergency, and I couldn't find a suitable replacement on such short notice. I had to hire a nurse. Today, she had gone out to buy things for me. I wanted a glass of water, but it was a little far away. My big belly made it inconvenient. I had a hard time reaching for it. I was about to give up when a fair, slender hand handed me a glass of water. It was a new doctor I had recently met. Dr. Way. I smiled at him gratefully, took the water, and drank it down before I said thank you. Thank you. He did a routine check and asked how I was feeling. I told him the truth. It hurts. His handsome eyes curved, and he took out a lollipop from his pocket. I was surprised to find that it was a brand I used to love, but it had been discontinued long ago. I haven't had this brand in a long time. When you and the baby are safe and sound, I'll tell you a secret. As I was going into the delivery room, I caught a glimpse of him. The immense pain quickly enveloped me, and I couldn't think of anything else. The doctor and nurses kept saying, push, push harder. I felt like I was about to die. I've heard that before a person dies, their whole life flashes before their eyes. I remembered my childhood. My family was well off, and I was the only child, so I was naturally spoiled. I was very sensitive to small things and would cry easily, crying as I continued to do what I had to do. When I was little, it was a difficult problem. When I grew up, it was a setback at work. I remember a little boy from next door who would insist that I was a princess and that my tears were pearls. So every time I cried, he would give me a lollipop to comfort me and would coax me until I smiled. In everything, my emotions were always the first priority. Later, my mother passed away, my father and I moved away, and I never saw that little boy again. When I grew up and met him, I was still the same crybaby, but under his emotional Cold War, layer upon layer of suppressed emotions had turned me into a caged beast. I no longer recognized myself. It's not that I couldn't solve problems, I just wanted someone to coax me, to comfort me, to love me. In my 7th hour of labor, I heard the first cry of a baby. The doctor said it was a beautiful little girl, 6 pounds and 7 ounces, very healthy. When I woke up again, the first face I saw was his. I didn't speak, just looked down at the child in my arms. She was so small, so soft, her eyes not yet open. She was the person I loved most in the world. He seemed to have been with me all night. He looked visibly tired. He took a step closer, wanting to see the child, but I subtly moved away. He was a little embarrassed. I just want to see the child. I thought for a moment and agreed. When he took the child, his movements were light and careful. A newborn baby is so soft and light, like a cotton ball in your hands. He rocked the baby, trying to coax her, until she started to cry, and then he helplessly handed her back to me. Isabella, I regret it. Can we get back together? Before I could speak, she came in from outside and grabbed his arm. Brother, don't you want to marry me? We are the best match. He shook her hand off, a look of disgust on his face. I just see you as a sister. I have no other feelings for you. She was struck as if by lightning and stood there, in disbelief. She grabbed his hand and started to make a scene. You're lying to me, right? How could you just see me as a sister? The baby was scared and started to cry. I glared at him and pointed at the door. Get out. As he turned to leave, I saw that his eyes were red. When Dr. Wei came in, he asked how I was recovering and then went to play with the baby. That little brat who used to follow me around and call me princess was you, right? He took off his mask, his eyes gentle. You remembered. To reward the gentle and brave new mother, I have a gift for you. With that, he, from somewhere, produced a fresh, dewy, wet rose. The day I was discharged, it was a rare sunny day. After he helped me pack, he walked me to the hospital entrance. He stood there, his hands in his pockets, tall and straight, but a little nervous. He cleared his throat and finally said, Can I pursue you? I was a little surprised. I showed him the baby in my arms. Dr. Wei, I have a child. Are you joking? It doesn't matter. Can you give me a chance? I smiled and took the baby's finger from her mouth. Who can say what the future holds? With that, I walked away, leaving him standing there. The car I had called hadn't arrived yet, but I saw him running toward me, out of breath. He was in a suit and tie, his messy bangs wet with sweat. He had clearly just come from an important meeting. I'll take you. I shook my head. No need. The car I called is almost here. His expression was complicated. He seemed to want to say something but held back. His gaze fell on the baby in my arms. His hand in his pocket unconsciously fiddled with a pack of cigarettes. Just as he had mustered up the courage to say something, she came chasing after him. She pointed at me and started cursing. Isabella, you bitch. Aren't you already divorced? Why are you still pestering him? Don't you think that having a child can hold him back? You can just die with that thought. The moment she had started speaking, I had covered the baby's ears. I looked up at her with a half-smile. Look clearly. It's him who's pestering me. Understand? If you can't get him, don't blame me. I couldn't be bothered to argue with them. Just then, the car arrived, and I turned to leave. I just happened to see him push her away. I have no feelings for you. Don't come looking for me again. As I was coaxing my daughter to learn to speak, my best friend sent me a message saying that the public opinion had exploded. Someone had leaked the news of my and his divorce. Everyone was cursing me, saying that I had let go of such a good man, that I was dramatic, that I was willful. They had released a video of me throwing a tantrum in public, of me making a scene at the office. He had just stood there, letting me go crazy, and then had quietly cleaned up the mess. His good husband image was well established. Everyone was on his side. In the comments, only a few questioning voices were drowned out by the accusations and curses. When the public opinion was at its peak, they had even exposed my address and personal information. I was getting harassing calls, and even my work was affected. I couldn't take it anymore. I released a video and a psychological diagnosis report, along with the evidence of his affair. The video was mostly from my perspective, describing his indifference when I was having an emotional breakdown, his light-year misunderstanding when I wanted a reason, his don't be dramatic when I wanted an explanation. I said, he was a very good husband, he just didn't love me. That afternoon, I also started a 4-panel comic on my social media. The title was Emotional Cold War, After posting it, I didn't look at the results. I only heard some news from my best friend's chat. His reputation had collapsed, and his company's market value had been affected. He had lost many projects and was working around the clock. I heard the shareholders were putting pressure on him, and his life was not easy. He looked haggard at events. She was clinging to him like a piece of gum, causing a scene at his company several times, but she was always thrown out by the security guards. She had even tried to force herself on him when he was drunk, but had failed and was reviled by everyone. Now she had no face in their circle. Because of this, she had gone completely crazy and had driven her car into him. Later, she was imprisoned, and he was injured and was still in the hospital. But none of this had anything to do with me. My daughter had learned her first word, "Mama." I never thought I would see him again. At my book signing, I was standing in the center of the crowd, and in a remote, dark corner, I saw him. At first glance, I didn't even recognize him. He had lost a lot of weight, and he looked spiritless. His clothes were messy, and his arm was in a cast. He saw my gaze and mouthed, "I regret it," but I didn't notice, because the book signing was a perfect success. I was filled with love. My assistant was waiting for me backstage with my daughter. I smiled, waved goodbye to my fans, and ran to the little ball of fluff. Picking her up, he was standing to the side, smiling. I had become a better version of myself. Sunk costs do not participate in major decisions. I will forever be grateful to the me who did not compromise for the sake of a child.